listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Today our guest is Kata EK, wife, mother, dreamer, optimist, professional proofreader, and author of a number of poetry books, including A Deeper Me. Welcome, Kata. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Kata, can you tell us a little bit about your poetry?
I was 13 years old when I began writing poetry. My parents were going through a separation, and I was trying to learn how to cope with that. So I began just writing at random. I learned about poetry in, school, like how they teach you in your language arts class, and I just found like a liking for it. I love Dr. Seuss. I still own the exact book my mom got me when I was 5.
Aww.
And I mean, I love how he rhymes. It's so catchy, and it just feels so lighthearted. And we had learned about Maya Angelou, and I liked how she tells a story in her poetry. Mm-hmm. So I adopted that whole story with a little lighthearted. I mean, it's sometimes the poems are dark, but the rhyming is still there. So I started out doing the poetry as a journal entry, and that kind of went from there. Like the 3 books that I've written of my poetry are because of my they're personal, really, when you think about it.
So what made you decide, to publish your personal thoughts?
I was 21 when I had my daughter.
Okay.
I was 3 years out of high school, and I was thinking that I was going to be a horrible, I wanted to be a great role model for her. Now, mind you, she's an infant. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a horrible role model, and we're going to have our high school reunion in 9 years, or 7 years, was it? Whatever, 10 years from there. So 6 years, 7. My math is off. But so I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't accomplished anything in life, and I don't want to, look like a loser to my child. So my aunt had published her own book, and she had talked me into publishing mine. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to ever look like a loser to my kid.
Oh,
So that was the motivation to get it going.
That was.
And then what were the steps that you took to actually get the first book published?
At the time, it was through a different online publisher. I didn't really like that experience, so I just wrote out the contract. And then during that 7-year period, I found out about Amazon, so I just changed it over.
Well, tell us about Amazon. How does that work?
Amazon is really simple. Amazon does ebooks. They're currently doing a paperback beta test. I recommend people to thoroughly research before they do the paperback with all, beta testing. But if they wanted paperback, they would go through CreateSpace. But for both CreateSpace and Amazon, you would just create an account, and they basically give you step-by-step instructions on how to submit your work and get it published. It's really simple.
If you had any difficulties, did you have a problem getting in contact with anybody?
I've never had to contact anyone, so I really wouldn't know.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's great.
So very easy then, okay?
So what was it that you didn't like about the publisher that you had the first 7 years?
I didn't like the fact that they controlled the pricing of my book. It's 100, at the time it was 140 pages maybe, and they charged $25 for it, and that was just, that was a put off to me.
Okay.
And I love reading, and a true reader will pay $25 for a book, but when you have people who are willing just to support you and sometimes their money's tight, they're not going to pay $25 for a 140-page paperback book. So that was my main issue because of the pricing. And then it would fluctuate. 1 minute it'd be $19 and it was like $25, and I'm like, I can't.
Yeah. And you had no control.
No control.
And now you have 100% control with Amazon.
I do, and I love it.
Good.
And more financial benefit for you, right? The percentage that you get to keep is a lot greater than most traditional publishers.
Do you have the books at home, or does Amazon send them out as when it's sold?
Amazon sends them out as soon as they're sold. So you can go online, purchase the book, and they'll deliver it directly to your door.
Okay, so you don't have any books at home. Someone
right. It doesn't go through me. Yeah, it doesn't go through me.
Your dining room's not filled with boxes of books.
Good gosh, no.
Okay.
That's great. So what are you doing to promote the book or your books?
I have a Twitter account, an Instagram account, a Facebook fan page, and a Facebook page, and I occasionally post links to them on there. I'm not a big promoter of my own stuff. I pretty much am a big promoter of other people's stuff. So a lot of people have been telling me lately I need to promote my stuff more. But but when I do, but I prefer word of mouth promotion. As a matter of fact, I'm due tomorrow to go to a local grocery store and sell my books because I mentioned it a few months ago and they were counting down the days until the book released. And so now that I have copies on me, they're like, I want you to come in so we can buy it. So as far as promoting, I do better with word of mouth, like in person. And I know it's a lot of my fan base like to purchase books from me directly, not off the website. They'd rather do it right off of me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fun. So the grocery store, you're talking to the grocery store and then they say, we would like you to come in and sell some books?
Yeah, it was weird. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a book signing at a grocery store.
I don't know. Like, I just would walk in there and be like, I've got your books. And I would be like, they'd be like, okay. And I'll ask them what they want me to say. I don't know. I never looked at it that way.
How cool. And so I've heard about author events. Have you been to any author events?
I've been to a total of 3. 2 years ago, I went to 2. One is it's called Artomatic 419, and every year they do this like really large event in Toledo, and they showcase all the artists' work that throughout Toledo. And so I went to that one, and there was one for like I think Black History Month. So those 2 I went to. The Black History Month one was kind of small, and then when I went to the Artomatic one, it was humongous. Wow. And then I went to a small one the Sunday before last. It was for she was premiering her first movie, and so she did it was called the Generation Premiere and Author Expo. So she had guest authors. She selected I think 6 authors to be there. So now it's pretty small. So they're pretty cool.
So the one in Toledo is called Art-O-Matic? Is that like art and automatic? And is it for different types of artists, or is it just for authors?
It's for different types of artists. I didn't get a chance to walk through. My sister walked my children through, but they had visual art, art in motion, the authors, like it was one floor was like nothing but paintings.
So an exposure to all different mediums.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. So is it worth your time to do it? Do you sell a lot of books? Do you feel like you come out ahead by going to an event like that?
I feel like it's worth my time because I network a lot. I find it's very beneficial. The one I went to when I went to Artomatic, I was selling my books and a woman walked through. Her name was Lorraine Cipriano. She's actually a poet, and she was awarded an award last year. I'm trying to remember what it was. And she went to, I think she went south for it. But she happened to walk through. She bought both of my books, and she was like, "Oh, these are poetry books." I'm like, "Yeah." So then she asked me to guest speak at her event a couple months later. It's called Women Unbound, and every month they do like a poetry event at a local library. And so she invited me, just from meeting me at this event, she invited me there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, new opportunity that was opened up to you.
Right.
Exactly.
How many books do you have published at this time?
I currently have 6 books published.
Wow.
3 are adult poetry books, 2 are children's educational poetry books, and 1 is a dark romance.
Tell me about the educational books, if you would.
Again, like I said, I had the love for Dr. Seuss and his rhyme scheme, and I noticed with little kids, they pick up better when there's a rhyme involved, like a sing-song to it. There's the 2 right now that I have are Teach Me Time and Teach Me Colors, and it's supposed to be I think 13 books to the series, and I'm kind of like taking my sweet time to do it. I need to move a little faster, but I have 2 kids of my own, and I noticed when they were little, I would do little, random like poems for them, and they picked up better with rhyming than they did just talking to them.
Okay.
And so I decided, you know what, and then, my sister has a 2-year-old and a set of 14-month-old twins.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, it's pretty hectic for her. So I realized little kids are always constantly, there's always going to be little kids, and little kids, some parents don't know how to teach their little kids or what to say to them to get them to pick up on some things. And it's always good to just read to them. And, if you can read a poem, they'll definitely pick up on that. I used to be able to recite the whole Cat in the Hat book without the book. So that's
wow, that's impressive. So are you promoting that book through schools or through libraries?
Speaking of, I'm glad you guys said something. I need to check my calendar. I'm actually supposed to be going to my sister, I guess little kids can go to school now. They're like, tiny and they go to school. They teach them stuff in school at the ages that they are. So I'm due to go to their school. I have to redo the dates, but I'm supposed to go and read to the little kids classes because the books are for ages 2 to 5. So they want me to come in and read to their classes.
Wonderful. Another exposure. That's wonderful.
Right. There can be some moms there who might say, hey, I'd like to buy that book and spread the word.
Exactly.
That is great. So we interviewed a lady, I guess it was our first episode, Vicky, and she goes with her mom and reads books to schools. Like they'll do a whole assembly and she'll read a book and answer questions. So that's a great idea to get the word out, to get kids excited about the book, and then the kids come home and say, hey, we had this great book today, let's buy it.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Started out in poetry, but then when you said your dark romance book, is that poetry or is that a novel?
It's a novel. It's a novella because it's not big enough to be a novel.
Okay.
But it's small.
Okay. And how did that come about?
In the year 2000, a friend of mine wanted me to start proofreading for her. And as I started proofreading for her, I realized, hey, I asked her questions like, is it hard to write a book? And she was like, no, it's pretty easy. And as I was reading it, I'm like, I can see myself writing a story. Now, mind you, I started writing that story back in 2000. And every now and again, because I write poetry and it's, for some reason, I can't focus past a poem, like 1 page, maybe 2-page poem. Okay. It was hard to keep a straight thought for 181 pages. But I was so proud of myself. Like, this is a major accomplishment for me.
Yeah.
That's for anyone. I mean, all of us, that'd be huge.
It is. So that's how it came about. Every now and again, like when I actually sat down and worked on it, instead of saying 6 years, the time frame I'd say probably be a year, because if you actually sat down and worked on it, it would be probably less than a year. But because I would start it and get overwhelmed, and it was weird because I would read I always read over what I wrote to see where I need to go, and it was intimidating me. Like, I was like, wow, I wrote that. So yeah, that's how that came about.
And how did you get over stumbling blocks? Did you have any any issues writing that? Because it's probably a big change, a big difference between the two writing styles.
Very humongous, giant. Focusing is the main one. Like the way I talk, I jump subjects. So you can imagine when I write. I think one of the readers said that it was jumping around. But it was totally different. What I normally did was I would just sit down. It was so weird because my friend's like, here's a storyline, you should write with this. And I'm like, I can't focus on a storyline. And she's like, well, what are you doing? I don't know. I would just sit down and my fingers would start moving. They would just constantly move. So as soon as I would sit and they'd type, if something broke that concentration, I couldn't pick back up. So then it would take time, like days and months even, to get back into it.
Okay.
So I had it it was just like one of those moments that you catch and you just go with it.
Some people are afraid to try anything new because judgment. People judge others. How are you finding your own story with the praise or?
It's doing well. I'm getting a lot of support from it. Honestly, I'm really excited. It sounds weird, but it's a 4-star. It's a 4-star rated book. And I'm completely okay with that because, believe it or not, when I was writing the book, towards the end, I sent it to a beta reader and she gave me 5 questions. And she said, you need to answer these 5 questions. And one of them was character development. And I'm like, oh, well, this is the middle of December. It's due to come out in January. I'm not going to worry about character development. I'll take that hit. So 4 out of 5 questions, 4 out of 5 stars. So I'm okay with the 4-star rating.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Well, 4 out of 5 sounds pretty good. And what exactly is a beta?
A beta reader, you write the story and you send it to your beta reader. The beta reader goes over it. They point out any errors, any inconsistencies. If your plot doesn't make any sense, if your story's veering, if there's no character consistencies, they do a little bit of what a proofreader and editor would do, but they let you know before you get to the editor and the proofreader and all them.
Oh, okay.
And then how do you find a beta reader?
You can go on Facebook and look up, I believe they have beta reader groups, but there are some located on Fiverr, this website. But a lot of them have I guess pages, like Facebook pages on Facebook that let people know what they do. So, because there's beta readers and there's ARC readers, and there's a difference. A lot of people, my aunt didn't realize that there was a difference. When she was my ARC reader, but she was doing beta reading, she was like, I don't know the difference. And the difference is the ARC reader basically, you send them the file for free, they read the file, and they just leave a review for you. That's all they're supposed to do.
Oh, interesting.
The beta reader does more footwork, not really footwork but more with your eyes. But basically they do more work than the ARC reader does.
Okay.
How does a proofreader fit into this equation?
once you write your story, you have people look at it. I recommend that before you send it to a proofreader or an editor, you have somebody go over it at least once, or you take time and then go back over it, because then it comes to me and I check for corrections, grammatical errors, sentence structure, and punctuation, things like that. And like I said, character consistency, like you said, the punctuation, making sure the story makes sense, and I clean it up for them. Okay. We do a couple of rounds of edits and we clean it up. I also do editing work, which is a little more, it's similar to a proofreader, but a little more with like formatting and structure and all that stuff. Okay. But you want it cleaned up before you publish it. Like a lot of indie authors out there, I know how it feels because I've been there. You get excited about, publishing your first book, and it's like I hit the finish, type the end, and I'm going to put it on there and hit submit, but you can't do that. There's a step in there that you need to take, a couple of them, because it's the sad part is so many of them are getting bad ratings for, poor grammar or bad punctuation, because when you mess up, when you don't have the proper punctuation in a sentence, it throws the story completely off. And people should really know that you can avoid that by following proper procedure. Get a proofreader, get an editor, get a friend before you get the proofreader to go over the story, because sometimes if I fix it, I might fix something and it doesn't make any sense to you, or that's not what you were saying.
Okay.
You find clients on Facebook for proofreading, or do you find them other ways?
Lately, I kind of just post in places that I edit and I proofread, but for the most part, I go off of referrals, so I let my clients refer me to other people and they come to me.
Great. That's the best way. Wonderful. Congratulations.
Right, word of mouth. Word of mouth is the best way to get business.
Yeah,
it is. Right. I learned it in college, and I've taken this thing to word of mouth, and that's how I just do everything. I feel like it's the best form of, promoting, and you trust word of mouth more. I personally trust word of mouth more than I would be like, oh, this person said they edit. Vices so-and-so did some editing work for me and they did a great job. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Exactly, sure. So if we needed a plumber and I asked my neighbor who they used for a plumber, I'd be much more willing to use that plumber than the one I saw, just pop up on Google search. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well, congratulations on everything you have accomplished. I did see that you started writing when you were young, 13, I think. Mm-hmm. And yes. So isn't that interesting that you started this as a young lady, and now here you are, you made it into a career. Congratulations.
I know. Thank you. I'm so excited. I realized that the other day, and I'm like, yes, it's a career. It's finally a career.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, maybe wanted to go down that path, but they're, didn't do it or didn't have the guts or the courage. And, so congratulations. I think it takes a lot of hard work to do this. So
it does, and sometimes you want to quit, but you have to just be patient.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Laketa, a couple questions before we wrap up. One question is the best way for our listeners to get in contact with you?
The best way that they can get in contact with me is I have an author. It's author Kata EK on Facebook. I have a Facebook page under Kata EK, and then I have a website, poeticallyable.webs.com. So those are the best ways to get in touch with me. Excuse me.
Okay, and we'll put all those in the show notes that we have on the authorInsideYou.com. And then finally, what's the best advice that you can give fellow authors?
The best advice that I can give them, it's actually two pieces of advice. The first one is to make sure when they decide to be authors to create a separate Facebook page from their personal one. Have a professional one and a personal one. And if you can, put author somewhere in that title, because a lot of people, when you're networking, a lot of people shy away from adding you because they don't know who you are. And save your personal business for your personal page. Don't share all that on your public page. Your fans, your readers are watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's excellent advice before you get too deep into it. And then you've shared your personal page too much. Yep, excellent.
Exactly. So you have the professional Facebook page, the professional account, and then to create a Facebook fan page. So those are the two things that you definitely want to have. And then the other bit of advice is when you're writing, just write for yourself. Don't write for anybody else. Write for yourself. You're going to get a lot of feedback. People are going to tell you, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. If you are happy with what you've written, that's all that matters. That's all that matters, honestly, because if that's a story that you wanted to tell it. Don't let anybody else tell it for you.
Oh, I like that. Excellent. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, congratulations, Laketa. You have a great career going, and thanks for being a guest. Thanks for being a guest on the Author Inside You podcast. And until next time.
Thanks for having me.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.